Okay, so we are going to rush now to the latter half of finishing up on your geometry. So say you have finished, say you feel that you are happy with your current model and you are now ready to complete the final stages. Well, first things first, we need to try and remove the history from our object, because when you are done with the geometry and you are ready to use it for things like animating and such, the history can cause problems later on. And if you're wondering what the history is, if you go to your channel box or layer editor with your main geometry selected, you'll see all the inputs that you've put in. So all the extrusions we've done, all the split rings we've done, everything will be here. So the first thing to do is to go up into edit, and we're going to delete the history. And by doing that, you'll see that it actually removes 2 of the extra objects from display, and now we are left with just our original geometry, which has remained unchanged, and this, which is an S-curve. The S-curve gets produced when you do a bridge. If you remember, we use the bridge command in order to attach our arm. So I can just go ahead with it selected and hit delete, and that will remove it from here as well. And now we're just left with the simple geometry, which is what we want. So the next step now is I'm just going to double check, make sure it is in object mode. And now I'm going to come up here with my object still selected, and I'm going to be going to mesh, and we're going to go to mirror options. Now I offset mine usually by 1. We are along the x-axis. Everything else seems good here, so we're going to hit mirror. Now you can see straight away it's made a copy of the geometry on the other side. It's a bit far away though, so I'm going to go to offset and I'm going to hit 0. And that's now brought it straight onto the seam in line without difficulty. Okay, this is the reason why it was really important to keep that central seam in place. So the offset is there, everything's good. I'm now going to right click and go into object mode, and you now have a fully created bunny. And if I come out of here and come into this section here, into the perspective, I can now rotate around and you can see your completed bunny. And if I go ahead and add the smoothing modifier onto my model by hitting 2 on the keyboard, you can then orbit around and see how your model is. Now there's a bit of an issue here. I don't know if you can see it, but there are faces on the inside of our model, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go back to before I mirrored, and let's get our original geometry back. There we go. Right, and what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to remove these faces. Now we're not going to have to remove all of them because the legs are slightly ajar, so we need these inside faces on the legs. What we don't need is anything inside the head and the main torso. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly jump into face mode, and I'm going to just quickly make a group selections of faces. Just quickly jump down through here. There we go. And finally these 2 here. I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. That's going to remove those faces. Everything else seems to still be intact. I'm now going to go back into object mode, and we're going to do the same process as before. So with our object selected, we're going to come back up to mesh tools, edit mesh, and we are going to go over to, mesh. We're going to go over to the mirror options. Once again, we know that the offset 1 was a bit too much, so I'm just going to put 0, and we're going to do mirror. And straight away it's applied it just like it did before. Again, I'm going to go back into object mode in order to make the changes permanent. And now this time, if we rotate around, you can see that the geometry all on the inside is now completely clean, and there are no overlapping lines or surfaces, and that is a relatively solid, basic, box modelled bunny. So hopefully you'll be happy with that. So go ahead and save. We're going to do an increment, a final increment save. And that will be your final project completed. And that will also give you an idea behind box modeling and how you can use it for your own models in the future.